Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I am, especially to those who are coming from the Alaska Conference, Oregon, Idaho, and the Pacific Northwest Conferences. I am Reverend David Valera. I serve as Director of Connectional Ministries and based in the Washington State, and it is 85 degrees right now here in Issaquah, Washington. I bring you greetings from Bishop Elaine, and she is currently responding to wildfire crises in our area and other important matters within the Life of the Tree Conference. But we have a greeting and an adopted scripture reading from Bishop Elaine that she previously shared with us.
Hello, friends. Gathered across Alaska, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. It's good to be with you in this extraordinary way in such an extraordinary time. Thank you for joining this Zoom training so that you can participate fully in the annual conferences that will be held next week. In order that we can keep the United Methodist Church in the Greater Northwest strong and faithful as it follows Jesus to shape a world in which the whole creation and the whole human family can thrive and breathe and enjoy a full and abundant life. I want to ground us in the hope of the gospel as we begin, and I've adapted portions of Romans 8 for this evening. I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory to be revealed to us. For the creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the children of God. We know that the whole creation has been groaning in labor pains until now, and not only the creation, but we ourselves who have the first fruits of the Spirit. We groan inwardly as we wait for a hug, for choirs singing in church, for a vaccine, for racial justice and economic equity, for LGBTQ inclusion, for cool rains and gentle breezes, safe return home after hurricanes and wildfires, electrical outages and evictions, return to work, the ability to hold hands and share a prayer and a kiss with a loved one in a nursing home or hospital. For in hope we are saved. Now, hope that is seen is not hope, but if we hope for what we do not see, we wait for it in patience. Likewise, the Spirit helps us in our weakness, for we do not know how to pray as we ought. But that very Spirit intercedes with sighs too deep for words. What then are we to say about these things? If God is for us, who is against us? Who will separate us from the love of Christ? Will hardship or distress or persecution, famine or nakedness, peril or sword? Will COVID-19 or racial injustice or police shootings or protester shootings, arsons or looting or political unrest? Will unemployment or depression, online work and school, or natural disasters, or national divisions? No. In all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. For I am convinced that neither death nor life, nor angels, nor rulers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor powers, nor height, nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God in Christ Jesus our Lord. So, may the love of God in Jesus Christ surround and uphold us all through these terrifying and demanding days.
Thank you, Bishop Elaine, for those words for us tonight. We are grateful for all of you who are participating and who are here with us, that you are here for this training session. During our time together, we will learn about how to fully participate in the annual conference business and more importantly, how to vote. I am happy to introduce GNTV, the United Methodist Media Ministry, and we have contracted with GNTV to help with the audio, video, and voting for the virtual annual conference sessions of Alaska, Oregon, Idaho, and Pacific Northwest conferences. David Wood is the executive director, and he and his team will help us learn about participating in the conference business and the voting process of our annual conferences next week. Thank you, David Wood.
Hello, I am happy to be with you tonight to walk through this training session for your annual conferences next week. Our team worked with the Pacific Northwest and Oregon, Idaho conferences for their clergy sessions earlier this year, and we are excited to work with you again for these annual conference sessions. So tonight we're going to look at several different parts of the Zoom webinar system, and then we're going to look at our voting system. So let's look at our agenda. So first we're going to talk about panelist versus attendee. Then we're going to look at the chat feature, the raise hand feature, and the question and answer feature. After that, we are going to look at what GNTV provides as a voting system and how to get a hold of our tech support. So let's jump right in. Panelists versus attendees. So I am a panelist tonight. David, the bishop, we've all been panelists working to lead these sessions tonight, whether it was live or by videotape. We are working with you to help you learn. During annual conference session, we'll be working with you to help do the business of the annual conference. You all are here as attendees. The members of the annual conference will be the attendees. You will interact and seek to be recognized by using the question and answer feature and the hand raising feature. And we will talk exactly about how that will work during this session. First, let's talk about the chat feature. So the chat feature is going to be disabled during the business portions of the annual conference sessions. This is to help us stay focused and intentionally work towards the goal of listening and perfecting the business of the annual conference. But at the beginning of each session, there will be a time where you can talk with your friends, you can exchange information, you can send messages about where you are and which church you're from, so that people can get a sense of who all is there. In addition to that, during the business sessions, you will be able to send messages directly to panelists. And finally, we will be using the chat feature during the business session to make some very important announcements. There is an example of an announcement right now in the chat feature. So if you're not familiar with the chat feature, let's find that icon, let's click on that, and let's open the chat and see that example announcement that has appeared. So down on your screen where these icons are, if you can't find them, you might try clicking on your screen, double tapping. You might move the mouse over your screen and click. You also, if you're on a portable device, might have to click on three little dots or three little bars to see these icons. Once you have these icons, look for the next icon, the raise hand icon. The raise hand icon is important because we will use it to help find you in the attendee area during the annual conference session. And so you will use the raise hand feature to raise your hand when the bishop calls upon you and is recognizing you. This moves you to the top of the attendee area. So click that raise hand icon right now. It starts out white or gray and says raise hand. When you click on it, it changes and it says lower hand and turns to a blue or green color depending on your device. There are 52 of you here. I would love to see all 52 of you raise your hands right now, because that helps me make sure that I know you are ready to participate in the annual conference session. So we're up to 45. That is great. Remember, for your hand to stay up, you need to have it be blue or green, and it must say lower hand. If you double click it and it goes back to that white or gray color and says raise hand, your hand has gone down. So right now our team is going to use a feature that is designed to lower all the hands. And then I am going to select someone out of this list to talk to me tonight. I'd like to talk to Fran Lynch. So I'm going to ask Fran to raise her hand. Fran is being prompted to raise her hand, and when she raises her hand, our tech team is going to prompt her to unmute herself so she can talk to me. So she will receive a pop-up on her screen since she's been recognized by me in place of the bishop, and that pop-up will have the words unmute myself on a button. She will click those unmute myself words, and that will allow her to speak to me. Now I can see that Fran raised her hand. I can see that she was prompted to unmute and did successfully unmute. So Fran, I would love for you to tell me where you're calling from tonight, which church you're involved with, and how many times you've been to annual conference.
I'm a member of the Willow United Methodist Church, a retired deaconess, and have attended the Alaska Annual Conference for over 20 years.
That is fantastic. Now, I don't know where the Willow United Methodist Church is. I'm from Georgia. So help me out a little bit. Where's that at?
About 75 miles north of Anchorage on the Parks Highway, like you're going to Denali Park.
That sounds like a beautiful location for a United Methodist Church. So that is great. What's the weather there tonight?
We're supposed to have close to a freeze, get in the mid-30s.
That sounds delightful. I'm from Georgia. It's been being 95 or 96 every day with a low of, 75 or 80 at night. Not very pleasant yet for our fall. Well, I appreciate you talking to me. I have one last question. Was it easy for you to unmute yourself tonight?
Yes, I had no problems.
That is great. Well, thank you very much for speaking with me. I hope you have a great night.
You too.
I'm going to try. Now, as Fran finishes speaking, just like if you had raised your hand and been recognized at an in-person session, she loses her speaking privileges. They expire after she finishes speaking. That doesn't mean she can't be recognized and speak again. It simply means that she has to be recognized to speak again by the bishop, that she doesn't, once recognized, get to talk anytime she wants during the rest of the annual conference session. So that is why we use the raise hand feature and how we use it, so that people can quickly be found, quickly be prompted to unmute themselves, and recognized to participate in the business of the annual conference session. Now, I think a few of you are wondering, how do I get recognized by the bishop? It's not your good behavior before the annual conference. It is, in fact, through the question and answer feature. And so you all will be invited to use the question and answer feature to seek to get recognized. So you can ask questions through the question and answer feature, but you also can do things like motions, amendments, moving the previous question, offering a second, points of order, or a request for personal privilege. All of these things can be part of what you do to easily get recognized and participate during an annual conference session. So let's look at a sample of what a motion looks like. So a motion looks like this. You would type the word motion in the Q&A feature, and you would then insert your motion. Please try to be as accurate as possible because the conference secretaries and our tech team are going to be relying on what you submit to help document and create slides for everyone else to be able to see what your motion says. Let's suppose that you like a motion that has come before the body. Then you may want to second the motion. So you would type the words second the motion, and you would enter that into the box, and then we would know that you want to second the motion. So, in addition to seconding the motion, you may decide that a motion needs some amendment. And so if you wanted to amend something that was before the body, you would type the word amendment, and then you would insert the text of your amendment. One particular point to make is if you are working to submit an amendment, you may need to provide some additional information so that we will know where the amendment goes and we will be able to easily find its location in the document you are amending. So, let's look at what else you can do with the Q&A feature. You can move the previous question, which is a call to close debate. You can make a point of order. Please include in your point of order what rule may have been violated or what your objection is based on the rules of your annual conference. And then you can request for personal privilege. This may be a prayer request or a desire to send greetings from the annual conference to a retired preacher who may be in ill health. Those are the kinds of things you can do through the Q&A feature. Finally, I want to point out that if you want to speak for or against a motion or an amendment, you would type speak for, speak against, or speech for, speech against into the Q&A to get in the queue to address the annual conference. So the way this works is you make submissions. Let's say hypothetically we start with a motion. The motion comes before the body. There may be a question, there may be another question, there may be a request to speak for, there may be a request to speak against, there may be another question, some more speeches. And let's say after a little bit of questioning and debate, someone's like, we need to move on, and they move the previous question. This person who moves the previous question could make all of the other things that come below that in the queue, unfortunately, out of order. So everyone who submits is not going to get recognized by the annual conference leadership. Some of your submissions are going to be out of order because of what comes before them in the queue document. One of the great things about the virtual meeting is that it allows people to participate simultaneously by making their submissions. One of the downsides is that sometimes you don't know that someone has moved the previous question, and you may put energy into suggesting an amendment that then is out of order. Remember, you can always move to suspend the rules and try again if your amendment is that critical. So, that is how you use the Q&A feature. You will use the Q&A feature to seek to get recognized so that you can participate in the work of the annual conference session. So tonight, I have a section where I generally talk about making sure that everyone enters a first and last name into the Zoom webinar. Amazingly tonight, every one of you has a correct first and last name. Please take care to do this again when you join the annual conference sessions. Make sure that you have on your Zoom profile a first and last name. Okay, we are going to turn our attention to our voting system. We are going to be using the GNTV voting system. It is a web-based voting system that works in a web browser, something like Chrome, Safari, Firefox, Internet Explorer, Microsoft Edge. All of those things work by entering a web address. That web address to enter is vote.gntv.info. That is vote.gntv.info. Okay, we are going to be taking a practice vote here very soon. But before we do that, I want to walk you through the steps. So you may choose to do this on the same device that you're attending the Zoom meeting in. And if you want to do that, you can click on the link in chat and it will open your web browser for you. You may also want to use a second device so that you can continue to see the Zoom webinar and vote. That could be a cell phone, it could be a tablet. So go to your web browser, Chrome, Safari, Firefox, Internet Explorer, Microsoft Edge, any of those, and open vote.gntv.info. vote.gntv.info. That is vote.gntv.info. Then, at the top of that page that loads, there will be a spot for a ballot code. The ballot code will always be displayed in red on your screen, and you will enter it because it is unique for each vote. The ballot code will be available once the bishop opens the ballot and will remain on screen while voting is occurring. After you enter it, click the green Load Ballot button. After doing that, you will be taken to the main ballot page. You will need to enter your voter ID. Voter IDs will be being distributed by the conference early next week for your sessions. You will want to use your voter ID, enter it in the space that says your answer, and then make your choice for answering the ballot question, and then click that blue Submit Ballot button. After submitting your ballot, you can get a confirmation message at the top of the screen that everything has gone well. So scroll up if you're on a portable device in order to see that, and then click that green Return to Start button. So right now we're going to watch a short video that will walk you through the steps of how this works. It will explain, demonstrating on a computer what this looks like so you can be well prepared to vote during the annual conference sessions.
Welcome to the online balloting system, coordinated by GNTV Media Ministry. Each of you should have received a 6-digit voter ID number in your email inbox. Please have that number available and convenient during the balloting process to help expedite our work. You may also wish to have a second device available for casting your ballot, such as a smartphone or tablet. To begin your ballot, please open a web browser on your computer, tablet, or smartphone and go to vote.gntv.info. If you have one available, it is recommended to use a second device other than the one you are viewing the Zoom broadcast on to allow you to follow the on-screen prompts shown in Zoom during the voting process. When prompted by the moderator, please enter the ballot code for this ballot that is announced and shown in red on your screen in Zoom. Please note the ballot code is case sensitive and must be entered exactly as shown on screen. After entering the ballot code, please click the green Load Ballot button. When prompted by the moderator, please enter your voter ID number and make your selection on the ballot. After filling out your ballot, please click the blue Submit button located at the bottom of the ballot. After submitting your ballot, you will receive a message letting you know your vote has been recorded. Please then click the green Return to Start button located at the top or bottom of your page to prepare your browser for the next ballot.
So we are preparing to take our first practice ballot. Before we do that, I want to share with you our GNTV tech support number. It is important for you to use this tech support number if you are having any challenges during the annual conference session. So we can help you with technical questions about Zoom or information about the voting system. Call us with those kind of questions and we will be happy to assist you. So, the phone number has been shared with you in the chat, but I encourage you to make a note of this phone number, to write it down, and to have it available for the annual conference sessions all the time. Let's take our first practice ballot together. I'd like to know if you are enjoying social distancing. So open your web browser, and I am going to declare this ballot open. When I do that, the ballot code will appear on the screen, just like when the bishop opens a ballot. That ballot code is GNW001. That is GNW001. And so after you enter the ballot code on that first page at vote.gntv.info, you are going to want to click the green Load Ballot button. At the top of the next page, you are going to enter your voter ID. Your test voter ID for tonight that we are all using is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. So please enter that test voter ID, make your choice, tell me if you're enjoying social distancing, and then click the blue Submit button. Remember to scroll up to the top of the screen to see your confirmation message that things have gone well, and click that green Return to Start button to be ready for the next practice ballot. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to work through this process. Okay, we are preparing to close this ballot. If you are still working and need a little additional time, I would invite you to raise your hand so that I can get a sense of how much is working and how many of you need a small amount of additional time. So I'm going to give you about 15 more seconds to work through this voting process. I am happy to see that most of you are being very successful at this. That is fantastic. For those of you who have raised and lowered your hands, I am excited that you were able to successfully vote. Okay, I'm going to declare this ballot closed. If you are still working on voting, I would like to invite you to call our tech support line right now. I would love for you to be on the phone with one of our team to walk through this next vote so that we can help you be successful. So call 478-216-7709. That's 478-216-7709. Okay. We are preparing to take our next practice ballot. But first we want to see some results. So let's see what those results are. Look at this. You all are not enjoying social distancing. That actually is almost a shock. At our training session last time for the Greater Northwest area, they were actually had a majority that was enjoying social distancing. And that is in fact the first time in about 50 practice ballots all across the country that has ever happened. But you all are pretty even. So you aren't far behind that group from last night. Okay, so we are working on our next practice ballot. This one is a different kind of question. I would like to know if you have pets. So I'm going to declare this ballot open, and we are going to begin the voting process. So the ballot code on the screen is GNW002. GNW002. And then I invite you to click the green Load Ballot button. After you load the ballot, you will enter in the space that says your answer. The test voter ID that is on the screen, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. Okay. Then choose your answer, yes or no. I have pets. And after you've chosen your answer, then you need to click submit. You got it. I heard some of you saying it. Click submit. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to work through this voting process. Okay, so we are preparing to close this ballot. I'm going to give you about 15 more seconds. So we'll play a little bit more music. If you are still working on voting, I would love for you to raise your hand. Okay, so it looks like we are making progress. A couple less of you raised your hand this time. That is fantastic. I am glad to see that hopefully you got help from our tech support team, so I'm going to declare this ballot closed. While we are waiting on the results, I want to talk with you about the voter IDs. Your voter IDs will be unique, and we will ask that you not share those voter IDs with each other. Each voter ID is just for you. It is designed to allow you to vote and be successful in the annual conference session. One of the reasons we ask that you not share this is because if you share your voter ID, someone essentially could replace your vote. Each voter ID is designed to allow you to fix a mistake you might make. Let's say, for example, an amendment was being voted on, and you voted no. But after some clarifying words from the bishop, you realized you meant to vote yes. Our system, while the ballot is open, allows you to vote again and replace your vote. Only one vote counts, but by voting the process a second time, you are able to replace your vote and therefore correct your mistake. That is why we ask you not to share your voter ID, so that you can be safe in knowing that your votes and only your voting is what is getting counted for you. Let's take a look at our results from this second practice question. Okay. Second practice question for the night. Do you have pets? A slight majority of you do have pets. That is a little surprising. It is often a much larger majority, but occasionally it's not even a majority. This question is a very split decision. Okay, we are going to look at moving on to another practice question. The next practice question is about your church. Is your church holding virtual worship services? I declare this ballot open. So we are going to be slowly picking up the pace, and right now you would need to be at vote.gntv.info. That is vote.gntv.info. You will need to enter the ballot code GNW003. Click the green Load Ballot button. And then on the next page, in the space that says Your Answer, you would want to enter the test voter ID. That test voter ID is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 1, 2, After you enter this test voter ID, you will make your choice. If your church is holding a combination of in-person and online services, I think that counts as virtual in this new world. So please make your choice. Click the blue Submit button. Scroll up to the top of the screen to see your confirmation message, and then click the green Return to Start button to be ready for next time. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to work through this. Okay, we are preparing to close this ballot, and I would love to see how many of you are still working on voting by raising your hand. So I'm going to give you about 10 seconds to raise your hand. If you have not reached out to our GNTV tech support team, we would be happy to help you with this process. So reach out to us at 478-216-7709. We are making a progress on this, so I'm going to declare this ballot closed. If you were not able to finish voting, we would love for you to reach out to us and call our tech support line. That is how we can best help you with walking through this process so you can be well prepared for annual conference session. That phone number is on your screen. While you are making a note of that, if you haven't already, let me remind you about the Q&A feature. The Q&A feature is the primary way that you will seek to get recognized during the annual conference session. As we are starting to wind down our training tonight, let's give that Q&A feature a test drive. So, let's open up the Q&A feature, and I would like all of you to tell me the name of your church and where you're from tonight. So there are 49 of you here right now. I would love to see all 49 of you submit an entry through the Q&A. I will be responding to a few of those. The rest of our team will be responding to a few of those. We really appreciate you all being here tonight and helping us be successful as a group in preparing for the annual conference sessions. So, we have worked through practicing voting. We've explained the Q&A system. We're testing the Q&A system now while we're waiting on results. So far, about half of you have entered into the Q&A. I would love to see every single one of you put an answer in the Q&A about your church and where you're from. This just helps me make sure that you know how to use this, that you understand the way it works, so that if you want to be recognized, that you can easily do that during the annual conference session. I see a number of you are here tonight from Alaska, several from Washington, Oregon, lots of great cities and churches spread all around the conferences, I guess I should say. My fault. It's around the area. Sorry, my Methodist vernacular got away from me tonight. So, we have results. Let's take a look at those results. Okay, it turns out that a majority of you are having virtual worship services. I personally think that is fantastic. Virtual worship services are extremely important during this time of uncertainty. And I think it is very possible that we will continue to need a new type of worship experience, a virtual worship experience, moving into the future as we are trying to be the church and reach out to the communities around us. So let's take another practice vote. But if this has worked well for you, you are free to go. You've heard me explain about the Q&A feature. You know how to do the voting system. I appreciate you being here this evening. I hope you have a great night.